The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Canadian Tree Fund webinar on the Roadmap to a Sustainable Future, SFI's Urban and Community Forest Sustainability Standard. The Canadian Tree Fund, for those who are new to our programming, is a registered charity in Canada that focuses on urban forestry and arboriculture research and education specific to Canadian practitioners. We work in close collaboration with the ISA Ontario chapter, who's hosting today's webinar. As usual, the Canadian Tree Fund is committed to bringing funding opportunities to Canadian research that benefits practitioners, and also supporting students who are early career professionals looking for a foyer and an entry point into Canadian arboriculture. And so with that, and as I'll recap at the end of the meeting, folks looking to donate are welcome to donate to the Canadian Tree Fund to help support this type of programming, our webinars, our research, and our interest in pursuit of creating a pathway for early career professionals. So one of the founding points for us is promoting the future of arboriculture and urban forestry in Canada. And one great way of pushing forward a sustainable future is through SFI's Urban and Community Forest Sustainability Standard. So we're pleased to have Alix Olson here to give a talk about how that standard can be incorporated into your municipality or into your consulting practice. So Alix Olson is passionate, is driven about urban forestry and sustainable standards for the forestry sector. Before joining SFI, she worked as a tree specialist at a nursery, a landscape technician for the City of Edmonton, and was part of the environmental team at the District of North Vancouver. Alix comes from the University of British Columbia originally with the Bachelor of Urban Forestry and an Environmental Management Certificate from the University of Calgary. She's also an ISA certified arborist. So we're pleased to have her join us here today to talk about the Urban and Community Forest Sustainability Standard and its application in Canada. So I'll turn it over to you, Alix. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Just want to double check that you can all hear me and see my presentation.
Yes. All
Wonderful.
good, Alix. Yeah, thank you.
Wonderful. All right. Oh. So, hello, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I know it's a very cold and dark time of year, and everyone is just very sleepy. So, thank you so much for joining today. I hope you all have a nice cup of tea and you can just sit back and relax and listen to me talk, and then have a nap afterwards. I know I will be. So let's begin. I will begin with a land acknowledgement. So the Sustainable Forestries Initiative's diverse team of staff and consultants live and work on the ancestral territories of many Indigenous nations, including from our offices on the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin people in what is now Ottawa, Ontario, and the Nagushtake and Piscataway people in present-day Washington, D.C. We are committed to building forest-focused collaborations that recognize and respect Indigenous people's rights, traditional knowledge, relationships with the land, enduring leadership in forest stewardship, and responsibilities to future generations. So I'm presenting today from the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Confederacy, the Tsuut'ina, the Waikiki Nakota Nations, and the Métis Nation Region 3 in what is known as Calgary, Alberta. So at SFI, we envision a world that values and benefits from sustainably managed forests. Our mission is to advance sustainability through forest-focused collaborations, which is why I am here to talk to you all today. So SFI has been involved in more traditional forest management certifications for the past 25 years, a little bit over 25 years now. Our board is made up of CEOs from a lot of different organizations, roughly divided into these three categories. You'll probably see some familiar names on this list, including the Arbor Day Foundation, American Forests, the Nature Conservancy is on there. So there's a lot of people that play a really important role in urban forestry that have already been part of SFI for some time now. So SFI is divided up into 4 pillars. So there's the standards pillar, which is what I'm a part of today. And I'll just kind of give you a really quick glimpse into the other 3 pillars. So we've got our conservation pillar, which is all about applying science to determine what the impacts are of those lands that we manage under the sustainable forest management. And other ways that we can help advance sustainability. So that's kind of what they do. We've got a really amazing group of people that work in conservation there. We also have the education pillar. So you may be familiar with Project Learning Tree, which joined SFI about 5 years ago. And that has really increased the number of learning opportunities for all ages, just between that partnership between PLT and SFI. And then lastly, we've got our community pillar, which is really focused on supporting SFI, their community, their network, as well as working with governments and other organizations across North America and the rest of the world. So they do a lot in that pillar. So I'm here to talk today about the Urban and Community Forest Standard. But like all of our other SFI standards, we're audited by third-party accredited certification bodies. So you can see some examples on the screen here of those certification bodies. So what this means is that SFI oversees the process of creating the sector development standard. But we don't go out and say, yes, you as an organization have either met this standard or not. That's what these third parties do in their audit. So they're the ones that grant the certification. We just create the standard. This has done something for us that we've never really had before, which is a really great way to prove that we're doing the right things in our sector, that we're having the right impact on our communities by taking care of our urban forests. So I'm very happy today to be here to present on SFI's first Urban and Community Forest Sustainability Standard. We've developed this in collaboration with other well-known entities in our sector, which you will all probably recognize. American Forests, Arbor Day Foundation, ISA, SMA, and Tree Canada are all named partners in this effort. So these partners serve on a steering committee, and they had representatives on a task group that we created that did the development of the standard itself, with some of the other organizations that you will see here in a moment. But it was really important for SFI to make sure that they were doing the right thing and respectfully entering the urban and community forestry sector, helping to build the capacity of the sector, and to increase the resources and our ability to help make change without competing against all of these other really great organizations that have been working in this industry for so long. One thing that people always ask about, and I even got an email about this just the other day, is what about Tree City USA? Are they competing? Are they complementary? Are they complete opposites? And that's kind of one of the reasons why Arbor Day Foundation was so important as a collaborator on this. And we see them really as complementary programs. So Tree City USA is a really great entryway for a city to be able to show that they're paying attention to their urban forest. And it likely also means that they are completing urban forestry tasks that could be applicable to the standard and certification, or maybe they want to go further and do a Tree City USA recognized community. So I've been with SFI for about 1.5 years now, but before I joined, they started exploring this opportunity in 2020. So they sent out a survey kind of as they were preparing to revise the forest management standard, and they got over 600 people responding, which was really awesome. And one of the great things about this effort is that we're committed to updating the standard every 5 years. So the standard is going to remain up to date, and we're going to be learning a lot of lessons in the next 2, 3, 4 years, and we're going to be able to apply those lessons as we respond and update the standard over time. So as I said, we put together, or I didn't put together, I wasn't here yet, but SFI's task group, as I mentioned before, put together a survey which over 600 people responded, and 90% of them agreed that yes, we welcome SFI into the urban and community forestry sector to develop a standard. And one thing we always joke about is getting 90% of people to agree on anything today is kind of a tricky task. So seeing this number was really amazing, and just seeing that people recognize the importance of trees and forests in our communities. So over the past 2+ years, Paul Johnson put together an amazing team to develop the standard, making sure that it went through all the necessary processes that all of our SFI standards go through, and that it's a good, legit sector developed standard, which resulted in our board approving the standard in May of this year, 2023, at our annual conference, which was really exciting. So now we're moving forward, and I get to talk to people like all of you who are interested in certification and kind of helping move this process forward. So as I mentioned before, Paul Johnson put together an amazing team. You'll see that there are 5 named partners are on there, but you also see that we have Utility Arbors Association, the Urban Wood Network, the Forest Service in both Canada and the US. We've got multiple universities, multiple communities, and lots of conservation groups. So this is an extremely diverse group representing a diverse geography and areas of practice. If you'd like to know the individuals that were representing these organizations, you can go to our website. You can see in the corner there, it's really easy to remember, forest.org, and there's a link to our urban and community forest page, and you'll find a list of everyone's names. And I also do have a list at the end of this presentation, so you can also just hold on for a minute. So the standard began with a conversation about why do we need a standard and what are the principles that we're going to build the standard around. So this is what we came up with. Urban and community forests and trees are vital for community well-being, health, resiliency, and sustainability. Those forests and trees and their associated benefits should be accessible and available to everyone. They depend upon the understanding, awareness, appreciation, stewardship, and engagement of communities and people in order to thrive. They require proper planning, care, and management to optimize the benefits and minimize risks. And they are nature-based solutions to pressing issues, and they are essential green infrastructure. Whoa. So every single performance measure in this standard that we created is held up to these principles. The task group did a really great job in making this standard as comprehensive as possible. There we go. So who is the standard for? And honestly, everyone. We tried to draw as few artificial lines as possible, so really all types of organizations can use this standard. So governmental organizations, if let's say your city, your country, your province has urban and community forests that they're responsible for, they can utilize this standard. Indigenous communities, non-governmental organizations, healthcare organizations, universities and colleges, and corporate organizations. We recently had the Cleveland Clinic and Clemson University do a pilot for us. So right now there really isn't a good way for, let's say, the Googles of the world or the Apples of the world, any kind of big organization to say, yes, not only do we support sustainability through our purchasing choices or through the ways we travel, but we also really care about our communities, and we're going to prove it through getting certified. So this slide's a bit of a take, but this is kind of what the standard looks like. These are the 16 objectives that we have developed this standard with, and lots and lots of review. So it starts off with community, people, and Indigenous participation. Then we move on to human health and well-being, protection and conservation of biodiversity, stewardship of natural resources, including air, water, and soil, urban and community forest and tree health and vitality, special sites, including natural areas, climate smart management. So this objective is really about how do we take care of the now and then also the future. Urban and community forest planning, management and care of urban and community forests and trees, disaster readiness, response, and recovery. So while we're selling the idea of urban forests, we talk a lot about the benefits and like great things that they provide, but there is also the potential downsides. There's always a risk, and risk management must be part of a good, sustainable, long-term program. So this one's really important. Capacity building. So how do you improve year after year? How do you make sure that you have the appropriate resources that you need to do what you need to do? And how do you find out from others that you know you're doing the right job, or you know you need to change some things? So, and then we move on to urban wood and community forest utilization. So where's that full cycle of management? If you're producing trees, you're eventually producing wood that may have its best use in a large down log for habitat for species in the forest, or maybe its best uses to be turned into table and chairs. And then there's this wide range between those two that would utilize that material without making it part of the waste system. Then we move into communications, research, science, and technology. So just like in our forest management standards, we're really proud to include this section in our standard so that organizations that want to get certified are going to have to utilize this in some way. And then legal and regulatory compliance, including recognizing Indigenous people's rights, and then finally reporting, which is more just about the certification process, making sure that you're telling us at SFI what you need to do so that we can maintain the information for your certification over time. All right, so here you can kind of see how the standard is set up. So we've got the objective with the titles, community, people, and Indigenous participation. Then we describe that objective, so to strengthen the community, enhance local economies, broaden public engagement, respect diverse perspectives, facilitate Indigenous participation, and ensure equitable access for all to the many benefits of urban and community forests. From there, we have a series of performance measures. So in this case, you'll see that we have 3, but some have as few as 1. So the performance measure has a description. Organization will broaden public engagement. And then you have to do the 3 things that you're able, or that you have to show to make sure you're able to qualify. One thing to keep in mind is that these certification bodies are auditors. And so they're going to come in and they're going to audit the program that you're working on to make sure that your organization has identified For example, here, opportunities and events for community members to support and celebrate trees. So a really easy way to do this indicator, for example, would be to do that you're doing some kind of Arbor Day celebration or some type of affiliate program. So not only have we created this standard, but we also have an accompanying guidance document, which incorporates all the language of the standard. So you don't have to have the two documents open at the same time, which is really easy. You can just have the guidance document if that is what is best for your organization or easier for you. So for almost every objective, performance measure, or indicator, there's a box that points up to the guidance of how an organization could meet this indicator. This is not an overly prescriptive approach that we have taken. So for example, knowing what's done in Florida is going to be a lot different than what's done in Ontario or what's done in Alberta. So we spent a lot of time talking about kind of what's locally appropriate when you talk about species, local laws, and then also the regulations. So we're not holding everybody to the exact same requirement, but rather what's appropriate for your organization in your setting. So we have a lot of guidance that is not normative. So you don't have to follow it exactly. You can kind of think of it more as like a BMP. So we put a lot of development into the standard. It's been a long time coming. It's crazy to think about. But the first draft came out a little over 2 years ago. And we had our first public comment period where we got hundreds of comments, 800, as you can see there. We went through every single comment and addressed, we didn't change based on every single comment, but we did consider it and make significant changes in both the second and the final draft. So for those of you that did participate in both or either of the surveys, thank you. We really appreciate it. Our first draft had 174 indicators, and with the efforts from you all and our task group, we were able to refine that down to 110, which was quite major. But it's still a big number. Do not let that number worry you too much. I'm going to talk about something in a minute that can reduce that number even further for those organizations that may not have as many resources. I'm also going to quickly just mention, if an indicator doesn't apply to you or your organization, and you can prove why it doesn't, then it will not count towards your certifications. So let's say, for example, you're an organization in the middle of downtown Toronto and you don't have any natural areas. You don't need to go out and create natural areas to meet the standard. As long as you're able to prove that it does not, or it's not applicable to you or your organization, it just will not count. So that can really help to kind of decrease that burden. So we did a lot of pilot projects. One with Clemson University, in which they got a community grant from us. We had a lot of support from the other organizations, which you can see on the screen here. The pilot project was kind of just a desk review of the standard, which consisted of individual surveys for each of the 16 objectives. So huge thank you to all those organizations and the individuals that completed those pilot projects. It added a lot of value to what we put together, and we're really, really thankful for them. So Paul Johnson also put together a red team, which he pulled from military planning and software development, which this idea of a red team, which is a group of subject matter experts that were not affiliated with the development of the standard. And then they were tasked with going in and trying to break the standard. So you can see here the names of our 4 red team members. Paul always jokes that we scheduled the meeting for a Friday afternoon and we were prepared to have our hearts just completely broken, thinking that this red team was going to find some major holes or something major that we had missed, and we were just going to take the weekend and just be sad about it. But one of the first comments we had once we started this meeting was, well, on this indicator, you have 8 things listed and you use the word and. Do you really mean that they must do all 8? Or should it be an or maybe an and/or? So they were really delving in deep, which we kind of were able to take a deep breath and sit back in our seats and know that we must be in pretty good shape if they were delving into specifics, grammatical specifics like that. And they all 4 of them did a really great job, and we came out with some really great things that we were able to fix before settling into the final draft, which is now available. So huge thank you to all those 4, the task group, all those that completed the pilot projects, and all those that did the public review. So during our annual conference in May of this year, our board approved the final draft, which is now available on our website in English, French, and Spanish. So our next steps have been working on the whole world of certification, which is a whole next step. So I'm really excited to be able to share with you all today that we have 2 options available. So you can get certified to the full standard, so all 16 objectives, or you can get certified using a thematic certification option. So rather than having to meet all 16 objectives, you just get certified as a community well-being and human health champion, or for your environmental and conservation leadership. So let's take a deeper look into those. So first, the community well-being and human health. You only have to meet objectives 1, 2, 13, and then 15 and 16 are carried throughout all of these themes. As you can see, this is a much lighter lift than trying to meet all 16 of the objectives. For the environmental and conservation leadership, you again, only objectives 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 15 and 16. So this is a way more accessible way, or a much more accessible way of achieving certification. And our hope is that everybody that chooses to start with a theme maybe wants to get another theme added on in the future, or will maybe go for the full certification. So for example, maybe your organization is really focused on climate resilience, and maybe that's as far as you ever go, and that's totally okay, because look at what you are addressing. Climate smart management, disaster readiness, response and recovery, urban wood and community forest utilization, research, science, and technology. Those are all really important for climate and disaster resilience. So, I mean, that's all right. And then finally, we've got our urban and community forest improvement theme. So we often get asked, especially after we developed these 4 themes, is what's the benefit of full certification? And we kind of see it as a way to prove that you care about your community and your urban forests. You can see even some of the benefits listed here. So support community well-being, health, resiliency, and sustainability, provide equitable access to trees and their associated benefits. I mean, you probably all know the benefits of urban forests like the back of your hand. I won't go into too much, but this is a really important thing. We also get asked about costs, and everyone always wants to know, how much is it going to cost? How much is it going to cost? How much is it going to cost? Money, money, money. So at SFI, we're not responsible for the third-party auditing costs. Each of the certification bodies, which I listed here, that get accredited for the standard will be able to set their own cost for doing this. The good news is for all of you is that many of the certification bodies have expressed strong interest in working on this project. So you're going to be able to talk to several different organizations, and there will hopefully be some market forces involved to help keep those costs reasonable. So you're going to be able to pick which is kind of the best cost, the best price for your organization. Also, your organization may also be completing or have completed a lot of the indicators, which is going to further reduce the cost in the long run. So we're currently in the process of working with the credentialing bodies to get accredited by ANAB or SEC. So as I mentioned before, our standard is now available on our website, forest.org, very easy to remember. It's available in English, French, and Spanish, as well as the guidance document in all those languages. We've got some more information about the development process. We've got a list of our certification bodies, especially the links for the next steps to get certified for those of you that are interested, and as well as some frequently asked questions that we often get asked when we do these webinars. So as I mentioned, here's just a quick list of our task group members. Each of them were so amazing in their own way, and they really contributed so much to this standard. I just want to give all the credit to them. They're all so great. So major, huge thank you to all of them. And then finally, thank you so much everyone for listening in today. I've got my email on the slide here for anyone who has questions, maybe they want to talk or get some more information about certification. Please email me. I'm always happy to talk about this, as well as the link to our Urban and Community Forestry page, which you'll be able to find that standard on.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Alex. For folks who have questions, on the side panel that you can see in front of you, you can type your questions into the question bar into the chat, and we'll get to them. There's already two. So the first one, could you define, given that community forests differs in kind of its terminology between Canada and the United States and within Canada, could you define and give some examples of what community forests would mean?
So we actually have a glossary that goes with our standard that defines community forest. So I don't know it off the top of my head right now, but the standard does have its own defined community forest term, which you will be able to find on our standard at the very back of our standard.
Awesome. Second question. Can organizations rely on other existing policies? So for example, can a municipality rely on its broad emergency response plan or Indigenous engagement and reconciliation policies?
Yeah, as long as they're able to prove that their compliance to the standard performance measures, this is a very broad thing. So there's lots of ways to be able to accomplish this standard. And the hope is that a lot of these organizations already are working on this, especially organizations that are interested in this standard. They've probably been doing this work for quite a while. So that's great. If they're able to show that they're already been able to do it or show previous work that they've done, that's awesome. That's a lighter lift for them and also just less costly.
Thank you. A third kind of broader question, I would say. Well, it's two parts. The first part is, where have you seen the most interest from? Municipalities, corporate organizations, etc.
Probably honestly from universities. We've had a lot of interest from universities. I think urban forestry just has a big kind of impact in the university world right now. So we've had a lot of interest in that. And we also get like the municipalities and kind of those smaller organizations, but yeah, universities.
Have you seen any, the second part of the question was, have you seen any difference between like large metropolitan cities versus kind of the 200,000 versus the rural 20 or 30,000 in their interest in obtaining the standard?
Yeah, I don't think we've had like enough interest of like those kind of diverse communities yet to be able to draw kind of those definite lines. We are still quite new in the process, and we may have also had interest, and I'm just not aware of the community at this moment. But I'm hoping that in the coming year, 2 years, 3 years, we're going to be able to have those like definite answers of, really be able to define those different types of organizations.
Wonderful. Bridget asks, what are the benefits of getting certified?
The benefits of getting certified. I kind of mentioned this a little bit in my presentation, but we see it as really just a way to prove and be able to show that you really care about your community and about your natural areas, and that you're doing the work needed to prove that you care about it. Yeah.
Can the certification serve as a benchmark for the policies and practices and management plans that people should have in place?
I think so. I think it's like a really great way. I mean, not only to show that you're working towards something, but it's also a great maybe goals for your organization to work towards, or maybe just kind of put some new ideas into their heads of how to expand and further develop these.
Once you have the policies and plans in place, Tozo asks, how long will it take to get certified?
So I think we're still working with those certification bodies to have those exact numbers and certification. I don't have the exact timeline right now. Hopefully I will maybe a little bit more in the new year, kind of as we carry on, or I will be able to kind of transfer that question to someone who maybe knows a bit more about the timeline.
Two questions on timeline once certified.
Okay.
The first is the standard overall. So you mentioned that the standard will be updated every 5 years. What will that process look like? Will it involve additional surveys? Will the committees meet again?
Yeah, I would imagine so. I mean, again, I haven't been here for a standard revision, but I will imagine it's going to be exactly like how we do all of our other standard revisions. So more surveys, public surveys, meeting with the steering committee, meeting with task group, maybe developing a new task group, expanding, diversifying. So we'll see in 5 years. We'll see what that looks like.
Once an organization itself is certified, do they have to demonstrate staying up to date, if you will, with updates to things like the standards and the best management practice of arboriculture?
Yes, so that's kind of in the reporting section, which is included in all of the thematic certification options as well as the full certification option. So the reporting objective is kind of just showing to us at SFI what you've been doing, how you've been keeping up to date, just the information that we need to know in order to maintain your certification.
And sorry, how frequently is the reporting cycle for that?
I'm not 100% sure on that. I will have to get back to you on that, where I think we're still working on that. This is still new. So once we have organizations that are actually certified to the standard, then we'll kind of have a bit more definite timelines or definite answers for you.
Kind of a little bit away from the organizations, if you will. There's several folks on the call today who are from the consulting sector or from the consulting world. What do you think this standard or certification, how can it fit into a consulting practice?
I think it can expand what you're able to do. I mean, if you want to get certified or accredited to be able to do the certification, that can really add to your consulting kind of book of what you do, kind of expand on that. And then you're also able to grow with us at SFI and how we, because we're going to be learning a lot from the people that are doing the accreditations. So you're going to be able to grow with us and just kind of grow in this really great urban forestry movement.
With SFI, for folks who kind of want to stay on top of changes, kind of two questions I would say. One would be, A, how can people get involved with SFI if they're interested? And B, is there, do you have conferences or webinars that folks could attend if they would like more information or want to stay up to date with SFI?
Yeah, we want you all to join and listen in on us and get all of our newsletters and whatnot. So you can go to our website and sign up for our newsletter. We also do have annual conferences. Our next one is in June next year in Atlanta. They're a lot of fun, our annual conferences. So we want to see as many of you there. We also are just, everyone at SFI is really welcoming to your questions, any information you have. If you want to keep in contact with any of us regarding any of the standards, we're all very happy to do that.
Wonderful. Again, another question back on the updates to the standard. Will SFI be open to updating the guidance document if some groups have good ideas of how they are meeting the standard?
Yeah, so our guidance document is a living document. So this document isn't being updated once every 5 years. This document, if you have something that you want to send me right now that you think would fit lovely in this guidance document, send it to me right now and I will look at it and we will update it. This document is always going to be updating just based on research coming out, new technologies, new sustainable ways of doing things. And we really want to hear from these organizations that are working towards certification or that are reading through this guidance document and saying, oh, we have a really great way of how we do this. We really want to hear that, and maybe we can feature that in our guidance document because maybe that will help another organization that's working on the exact same thing.
Last question here that I see, I think the last question I see in our chat. You touched on this slightly in the presentation, but does an organization that's pursuing the SFI certification need to have written and documented management plans and/or a tree inventory?
So I wouldn't put it as specific as that, as long as you're able to prove in any way. Obviously, we would love to have a written tree inventory, super organized document. That is not that's just not what a lot of organizations do, and that's okay as long as you're able to prove to an auditor in some way. That can really be any way. Of course, we would love a lovely, organized, clean document, but however you can prove it.
Wonderful. I like that. It's a very accessible standard and certification
Yes.
for a variety of organizations. I don't see any other questions in the chat, so we'll end a little early, I guess. Thank you, Alix, for coming out and presenting to us and updating us about this new standard. You and Paul were here a year ago or so, so it's nice to see the updates that have been made. Congratulations to you and Paul and SFI broadly for having the certification enacted and put into effect. Now we're starting to see the discussion about it in Canada as well. Before we close off, as I always say, and as I started off with, the Canadian Tree Fund is a registered charity, and we greatly appreciate any donation, no matter how small people make. I usually chalk it up to, I think everyone, all the charities you see online talk about do for the price of a coffee, and I think the one that relates to us a little bit more is for the price of a box of a chainsaw chain. The price of a chainsaw chain can help support a student pursuing arboriculture, or the research that the Canadian Tree Fund has funded for over 25 years. An important reminder for folks that CEUs will be applied automatically to everyone's account. So as long as you are here through the duration and you're active, then you'll see those CEUs in short time with the ISA. Lastly, I'll paste the link into the chat there for folks for anyone who is interested in donating, or perhaps if you're an avid cyclist and you're interested in joining the Tour de Trees ride for the future. We're always looking for more riders. So with that, thank you, Alix, for coming out again. Thank you to ISAO for hosting the webinar, and thanks to everyone who attended today to learn more about SFI's Urban Community Forest Sustainability Standard. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.